This seems to be becoming a new series on mud flood videos. I didn't intend it to, but YouTube's worst mud flooder, a guy who calls his channel A Toy Shop, has been at it again with lots of bizarre claims. This time he's going through some of the comments on one of his videos, and I had made a video reply to one of his videos, so he's having a go at the people who have commented and also on the video that I made. So let's see what he's up to this time.
And he's right, that is photoshopped. It doesn't bother me too much really, because you don't have to look far to find ones that aren't. So although his denial was correct here in that one image I'd used is photoshopped out of many, you don't have to look very far to find images that aren't photoshopped of large doors.
So A Toy Shop admits that he was fooled by this photograph and he was made to look foolish for it. He believed a fake photoshopped photo to be an actual real thing in some country somewhere. He didn't research it. But then he immediately went on to say,
I'm not really sure why he wasted his breath with that.
The reason why I wasted my breath, A Toy Shop, was because you included a photograph that you thought proved your idiotic mythical empire and your belief in giants roaming the earth, thereby confirming your belief that history has been fake.
It's like denying the obvious.
Why is it like denying the obvious? Do you seem to think that tall doors are some kind of conspiracy, that they've been hidden from the history books? Tall doors are everywhere. You get tall ones that are built in the ancient world, you get tall ones that are built in the modern world. There's round doors, there's short doors, there's barn doors, there's whatever. What conspiracy theory do you think you're proving by putting a tall door in your video? And what does that say about your ability to research? What it says about your ability to research is that you have no ability to research.
This is definitely not underpinning any building to me. This is digging out a pile of dirt that we can clearly see between where the digger is and the buildings, that there's a mound of dirt above ground level of the buildings. It's clear as day. I'm not sure how you could ever deny that.
No, they're not digging out buildings here, A Toy Shop. The photo that you've included in your video is from the early 20th century, and it shows what's called the Denny regrade. This occurred in Seattle in the state of Washington, and it was a project designed to level out a hilly area known as Denny Hill to create further urban development. Seattle was growing, so they had to get rid of this annoying little hill that was in the way of development. But by the time they came to demolish this hill, some people were already living on top of it. There were some buildings, there were some roads, there were pathways. The area was inhabited. The point here at Toy Shop is that all you're doing, once again, and this is what you do in all your videos, you just find photos on the internet and then make up stories about them because you don't understand what you're seeing. You think that these photos prove whatever conspiracy theories you've got, but you don't actually look into these photos to find out what they are.
How about 2 electrical poles with a wire between them going nowhere? No transformers, no generators, nothing. Just a couple of wires dangling between 2 poles. Could you explain what they would be used for in a habitable, functioning city?
Yes, we can absolutely say why the power lines are dangling there. Because the whole hill is being demolished. Everything is being torn down. That's not hard to understand, A Toy Shop. The whole hill is being demolished. If you want multiple photos of the Denny Hill regrade in action, there's a bunch of links below and you can go and see these things for yourself. Lots and lots of photos, lots of information. There's no conspiracy here. No one's digging out a lost civilization. It's merely the destruction of Denny Hill in Seattle to make way for more urban development.
Mud flood is a theory that our history is hidden from us in many ways.
No, mud flood is not a theory. It doesn't even rate as a hypothesis. Actually, it's a delusion.
Santa's real phone number off Snopes if you like, they're so honest. There you go. You can actually leave a message for Santa. What a fact checker that is.
And now for some reason A Toy Shop is going on about Santa's phone number, and for the life of me, I really can't figure out what he's going on with this. What does Santa's phone number prove? Maybe you didn't get the present you wanted last year and Santa's to blame.
I want to know why we built things like this when we first came to Australia.
A toy shop. These are the exact same buildings that you talked about in your previous video when you said that it's almost like the inhabitants thought there was going to be a city there one day. Well, there was a city there already. It was Sydney. Just because it was 1890 something doesn't mean to say it's not already a city. It was a city. Anyway, you've gone back to the same buildings again and you're asking, I'd like to know why we built these things when we first came to Australia. The buildings, again, one of them is St Andrew's Cathedral, begun in 1837, 49 years after the first fleet arrived at Sydney Cove. And the other building you talk about is Town Hall, and that was constructed, well, the construction began in 1869, and that's a full 81 years after the arrival of the first fleet. Obviously, we didn't build things like this when we first set foot at Sydney Cove in 1788. These are later buildings.
Massive stone buildings.
And this is the Customs House built in 1844, 56 years after the arrival of the first fleet.
Then we moved on to building this. This was a step up apparently. We've evolved to be able to build this great building. After learning a lot from the beautiful stone buildings that are still around today.
So a toy shop, let me see if I get this straight. You think that because we were building big stone buildings in the 19th century, that means that everybody since then in Sydney should now be living in grand stone palaces instead of affordable housing. The picture that you put there is an example of affordable housing, the sort of stuff built certainly in the 60s. I lived in a house like that out in Liverpool. This is housing for ordinary middle class people. Okay, it's tract housing, it's suburbs. They were put up quickly, quite cheaply, for the hundreds of thousands of people who needed houses. But you seem to think that, well, we built big stone buildings in the 19th century and this is all we can do. This is the best we can do now, little fibro houses. It really is clear that not just history has to be explained to you, but economics, politics, architecture, everything has to be re-explained to you. These stone buildings are civic buildings, post offices, libraries, parliaments, those sort of things. They're designed to be grand. They're designed, certainly back then, that was the style of architecture back then. They're designed to say, look what we can do, look what we've done, look how far we've come, we have these beautiful buildings. You know, and people take pride in that. It's civic pride. But it doesn't mean to say that because we can build in that style, it doesn't mean that every building we build forever and ever has to be exactly that kind of thing.
I mean, the word fossil to start with means dug up. We dug it up from the ground. That's what the word fossil means. Mainly associated with fish to begin with, but anyway, the basis of the word means to dig up from the ground.
And then he goes on about fossils for no apparent reason. I don't know what he's talking about with fossils here. Why did fossils have to be included now? We dig things from the ground. So?
But what I have noticed, a lot of people have, is that the lack of people in certain vintage photos.
It's not hard to photograph a landmark or anywhere, to be quite honest, that shows little or no people in them. Here's some examples. The Eiffel Tower, devoid of people. The Washington Monument, the Sydney Opera House, the Kremlin, Times Square, the Taj Mahal. Just because you can see a photograph taken in the mid to late 19th century and there's not many people or no people in the photo, doesn't mean to say that there's been some sort of civilization reset. It just means that there are no people in the photo. Maybe the photographer just wanted to get the building on its own without being cluttered with people. Also, another thing you've got to realise is that certainly with older photography in the mid-19th century, you had to have the shutter open for a long time to get the photo. It wasn't like just point and shoot now with our technology now. So if you got the shutter open for a while and someone walks past, that person will actually disappear from the image because the shutter is open for so long. Now, a building, of course, just sits there. It's not going anywhere. You put the camera on a tripod, you take a photo of it. But people walking about in front of the camera, they will blur out. You won't even be able to see them. Old technology. But again, that's research, and that research is something that you don't do.
Is there something here in this shot which is nothing to do with Australian culture, nothing to do with English culture really, that has seemed to have followed all cultures around in their stonework? I refer to the obelisk. Why? There are many things we could ask why for.
Yeah, the obelisk that you're talking about there is not part of Australian or European culture. It's from Egypt. Not in that particular photo, though. This is a homage to Cleopatra's Needle that's standing in London. But it was just another example of people out here on the other side of the world trying to maintain, trying to emulate the country they came from, in this case, the United Kingdom. This silly little obelisk. It's not a very good one. It's a very bland design, but it's just another example of people bringing the technology and the styles and the fashions from overseas, from Britain, from Western Europe, here to the new lands. And I'm disappointed at Toy Shop. Where's part 3? There's no to be continued. Or is it just a case that you know you can't prove that history is fake and so you're giving up now? So a toy shop is a classic example of someone who probably through no fault of his own, just has very minimal education. And yet now, for whatever reason, he's trying to figure out the world and figure out how it works and how it came into being and all that. And he doesn't know how to. He's never had to try and think about the world, think about architecture or history or society or culture. And all of a sudden he's trying to work it out with virtually no education. And sadly, he allows places like YouTube to be his new classroom and is willing to believe just about every conspiracy theory he clicks on, because he simply cannot tell the difference between the fantasy world and the real world. At the end of the day, a toy shop, you haven't proved one thing. Not one. No, I don't care what you believe. I couldn't care less. But at least make some effort to try to prove what you believe. And you can't just say, oh, I'm just asking questions. Like I said before in some comments somewhere, at some point you've actually got to start answering those questions. So thank you very much to Toy Shop for your latest video. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't even have to refute what you say because you don't even put forward an argument. You just look at pictures. So this is to all, yes, you as well, watching this. You, the mud flooder, you, the Tartarian believer, it's all fake. It's all in your head. It's all a fantasy. I'm not a Mason. I'm not paid by the government to say this. And all these videos that you're all making, not one of you has proved anything. Okay, so there we go. That's the video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. If you liked it even more, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.